Welcome to the My Journey podcast, a place where I document my freelance journey, and with the help of my good friend Tom Scott, we discuss a whole range of business related topics. We do this by randomizing subjects, interviewing incredible guests, and answering your questions. But as ever, we start by catching up on what we've been up to over the last few weeks since we were last around the mic. So, throw over to you, Tom. Anything worth of talking about in the last few weeks?
It's all just been work, 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 really. Gone back to, I can't remember if we mentioned this last time, but gone back to doing a few days at home, a few days in the office.
Yeah.
Um, and with that, it's kind of brought along a whole use of timesheets, basically.
Okay.
The way I'm doing it in my role with my manager is slightly different, where it's more not time associated, but more listing what we've got up to that day, but more using it as a electronic to-do list.
Okay.
But it's been quite useful at the minute because so it's in an Excel document. So the far left is a list of just anything in the finance department that we need to do, and then there's my manager's list and then mine to the side of it, so we can kind of see what each person's doing. But it's also like if you're kind of on top of your tasks for that point, you can pull from the other list, and then you kind of know it's been dealt with, but you don't have to keep checking with each other like who's doing what sort of thing. And then kind of plotting that out again. It's just the electronic version of what I normally do when I write things down. But yeah, it's been good to see. Especially like I'm kind of using it almost as a competition now because it's easier to count. So like last week I completed 35 tasks. This week I completed 39. So it's like next week I kind of want to be ahead of that even more.
As long as you're not putting like send email down as a
Send
task,
email.
which is sometimes what I end up doing. If I'm being really unproductive, I'll start listing things that really small tasks to get me going. But no, it's interesting because I think I've spoken about it before. I'm someone who uses Excel for list making and kind of planning my time as well.
Yeah.
But the when obviously working with like the kind of people I work with and stuff like that, they all use like online management tools, so like Trello. I don't know if you've heard of that, or there's a couple of others, but they're basically like Trello is I think they call it a board, and then you have like you can title each board. We're using Asana for the YouTube channel, and it's that kind of thing. You move things through the different categories so people can see where they are. But yeah, I'm still
Okay.
a fan of Excel for my general planning. But yeah, there's definitely tools out there as well that kind of do similar things. But I sometimes think if you can do it in Excel and it works fine, well, there's no real need to step up. It's when you start moving on to bigger projects and have like 10 people feeding in, you kind of need somewhere where you can all go. But yeah, no, that's cool to hear.
Yeah, it's good enough for like if you want just a simple list that you can color code, put dates to, and easily move around without getting too complicated with
Yeah,
anything else. Like in its basic form, it's that which is nice and easy.
yeah.
But yeah, apart from that, I've not particularly been doing much really. We met up earlier on in the week, but that was probably it really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I've really seen. What about yourself?
So I mentioned on the last episode, so on the solo episode in between, about I had a personal branding workshop coming up, and that went really well. It was quite interesting because the audience was probably not my usual personal branding audience. It was like slightly older and maybe the kind of people you'd expect the reaction, oh, what's this for? Why do I need to know this kind of thing?
Yeah.
But their boss really bought into it and they seem to buy into it as well. So I'm just waiting to hear back from them on whether or not they want me to do some more work with them. It'll probably be a yes, but probably just not straight away. They probably want that to sink in a bit, that kind of initial session, see if they pick it up and then kind of press forward with them from there. But yeah, it was an interesting one. There's some interesting examples being thrown around. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But entertaining and good fun. And yeah, there was a couple of like I said, the boss really bought into it. And there's another young lad who works in their marketing team who I've had contact with, and he really enjoyed it as well. So at least 2 people out of the kind of 6 or 7 on screen took something away from it. So that's always good.
That's all right then.
Yeah, and then just another update. I don't know if this happened before the last podcast that we did. I'm not 100% sure, but you remember I set up Social Media Club, the Facebook platform,
Yes.
where I set the little group. I've kind of put that on the back burner for now. It was just like another thing on the list that just kind of seemed to be like, on the weeks I had to do stuff for it was like the tipping point of almost too much stuff to do that week. So
Yeah.
I just kind of like said, let's put it on hold for a few months. I said I'd give it a few months to start with to see how it was going. But I just kind of put it on the back burner. It's something that's there. I might pick up again in the future, but I just found it wasn't really, for the amount of time and effort I was putting in, there wasn't really the results to match. And I would have liked to have given it more time, but it just, it was just like, too much on my plate. And I thought that's something I can get rid of that doesn't affect anyone apart from myself. So that's gone. But what I am doing now, we're gone.
I was going to say, plus the whole idea of the social media club is, it was great with all the input you was putting in and the time and everything like that, but it was also the idea of building that sort of community where people could help each other out as well. So even if you're putting it on the back burner, it doesn't mean that it could just be silent for a few months. Like, there's the potential there that people can just go in and and post their own stuff.
There's still people requesting to join it, and I'm accepting them. Like, it's up to them how they use it now. But just kind of linked to that, I'm starting to move like the content I had in there back out onto my general social media. So like over the next week or two, you should start seeing some like more like top tips kind of content. Not in the form I was doing on Social Media Club, which was like long form videos, like 5-10 minute videos, but in like almost like handout style or presentation style, or maybe short clips. So if you're following me on social media, you're going to get all that kind of stuff as well now, like top tips, how to use LinkedIn effectively, little nuggets on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully by moving it out of Social Media Club, it'll reach more people and hopefully help more people and stuff like that. So
that's all right then.
Fingers crossed it's a beneficial thing to everybody. But the only other thing is, like, I was going to talk about, but I think I decided to save it till the end, was about YouTube. So we've been, again, working quite hard on that, starting some new kind of content ideas for there. But at the end of this podcast episode, we're going to talk a bit about like what we've learned so far from YouTube. Just really quickly, a few little things, and talk about a new challenge that we've got coming up, which we've started, but we've not started releasing yet. It's just a fun one, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's one of the things where it was a slow build into it. We've been talking about it for a while, but now it's actually started. I'm like, okay, now I need to get my head down into this.
Yeah, because the last big challenge we did was the Idiot Trading Challenge, which was quite a lot of work. It was quite like all consuming. This one's a little bit less time consuming, but we've still got our pride at stake, so we're gonna go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you stick around till the end, we'll talk a bit more about that. But as usual, we're gonna go to a musical interlude now, and then we'll be back with a randomized topic in just a second. So as I've just said, we're now going to randomize a topic. We're back from the debate style that we did last time. We've got the long list in front of us, which is getting a bit short. So if you do have any ideas or any suggestions for topics, please do drop me a message at the MJ Social on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I'm going to use Google's infamous random number generator. And we have got leaders, which is an interesting one. So under the topic of leaders, we have got, what is your definition of a leader? What makes an excellent leader? Describe the best leader you have worked for or with, and how good of a leader do you believe that you are? So that's a interesting one. I think the beginning questions maybe need a little bit more thought. So we'll go straight onto that last one. How good of a leader do you believe you are? Well, I'll give you a second to think about it. I probably think I'm a better leader than I actually am, because I working on my own, there's never a situation where I need to. Well, there are situations where I need to lead, but there are fewer situations than where I would need to become a leader. I do what I need to do. I do work with other people, but it's on a very collaborative kind of arrangement. But yeah, how good of a leader do you think you are, Tom?
How good of a leader? Sorry, the entire connection just dropped there. How good of a leader do I think I am?
Yeah, how good of a leader do you think you are? It's gone again.
Yeah, I would say at this point probably a better leader than I ever thought I was. Doing a lot of this, which is added in confidence, which is then pushed from there. Same as you, I'm not in many opportunities where I need to be a leader.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of why I think I would be a good leader anyway would stem from everything I've not enjoyed from people who were supposedly a leader to me.
Okay. Yeah.
So not that I've put much stuff into practice, and I'm trying to think of all the things off the top of my head now, but it's, just in your day to day, when you come across someone that should be a leader in many different senses, which I know we're going to come back to the definition of it. But that whole, I know how I like to be led.
Yeah.
So in theory, I would use that same sort of principle if I was to be leading something, in the hope that everyone following would be on board with what was happening.
So if you had to pick a couple of like personality traits or kind of characteristics of a leader, what kind of stands out to you based on what you're saying?
I think to be a good leader, you have to be very personable.
Yeah.
I saw a funny graphic on this on LinkedIn where it was two side by sides of someone screaming and shouting at a group of people saying, "Why haven't you got this done?" And then on the flip side, there was someone coming forward and going, "Look, we're behind. How can I help?"
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the big ones out there. You have to be, you have to lead, but the best thing is if you're leading by that example of, if people are struggling, you jump in, you don't just resolve to anything negative to try and get people to work better. It's staying positive and supporting people in whatever way you can.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that kind of stands out to me is like leading by example. So like a leader should lead by example, and if they want people to behave in a certain way, then they should be behaving that way themselves, and like they should be willing to do the work that they're asking other people to do. They shouldn't have to do it. The whole point that they're probably a leader tends to be higher up the hierarchy, so by definition they shouldn't have to do the work that they're asking other people to do, but they should be willing to do it if needed. So yeah, that's definitely. Have you got any other personality traits?
Ooh, I lost my thought of my personality trait, but I was going to jump on the back of what you were saying there with it. It's not necessarily the sort of work you're doing either. It's like, if you're wanting someone to give their absolute all every day of the week, you should also be visible, be around, giving your all every single day of the week. And it's not even the leading by knowing the answers to everything.
Yeah.
You don't need to know the answer to everything. You just need to how to come about the answers.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like being passionate is another part of that. Like it's like you say, you don't need to know all the answers, but if you've got like a passion for what you're doing, and just kind of that passion will be infectious, and other people will want to find out the answers and help you out. Like if you're not giving your 110%, why would other people want to give their 110% to help you fix? Because ultimately, if you're a leader as well, like there's probably some kind of responsibility on you. There's probably some kind of it's going to come back to you, whatever your team does or whoever it is you're leading. So you need them people to want to kind of fight for you as well. So like by having that passion and that drive and that determination, it should rub off on other people. And if, like you say, people don't know the answers, you should be able to inspire people to find the answers and try and find the answers for you.
Oh, too right. Yeah, that level of inspiration is definitely there. Needs to not only be a leader by showing off, like you don't want to show off, oh, because I'm not look because I've worked this hard, I've got here, and here's how you guys can do this too, sort of thing. Is that level of not using the position, if that makes sense.
No, I'm going to say something that's maybe a little bit more controversial in terms of leaders, but I think a good leader is also made by their team, and it is a two-way thing in terms of, as a member of as somebody who's being led by somebody, you've got to appreciate that at the end of the day, the leader that stands in front of you is a human being and they do have things going on. And just because they're being a little bit more maybe harsh or maybe expecting a bit more from you today, is probably because somebody above them has said, we need this sorting, and they're under pressure or that kind of thing. And if you as a team don't appreciate that and respect that, then the leaders starting from a negative position in terms of that they're always on the back foot. They can't be their best selves. And the other way around, just because you as a leader give 110% and stay on late on a Friday or whatever that kind of 110% is, doesn't mean that the team should also do the same thing. You shouldn't expect a team to do what you're doing, especially like in business. A lot of times people say about entrepreneurs, like, the business is yours. The fact that you want to stay and work all weekend is your decision. You own that business. The people who are working for you, they have every right to work a 9 to 5 as long as they apply themselves while they're there. If they want to switch off and not answer your texts on a weekend, that's their prerogative. And you, like I say, it's a two-way thing. Got to have that respect. But just on that,
I mean, it's just one.
In terms of examples, what makes an excellent leader? But you've just said there about, we've kind of tried to discuss that through the personality traits. But it says here, describe the best leader you have worked for or with, which is very similar. But have you got any examples of like any good or bad leadership? You don't have to name the situation or the people to get you out of any trouble, but have you got any examples of either one end or the other of the scale?
Well, yeah, jumping back to what I said at the very start of this, of knowing things that I haven't liked from leaders to help with what I think would make me a good leader.
Yeah.
I've had many different things of just because you're in that position doesn't mean you can treat anyone how you like. That doesn't matter. So if you're paying someone to come and do work for you, they're there to do the work. All the extra things that come around with that is you've almost got to just take that on the chin. But best leaders, which is one I definitely like to talk about, is, and I always talk about it, but from camp, the director that was at camp at the time I was there was one of the amazingly strangest people ever. Like he was just awesome, absolutely awesome. Would do anything for you. Even though there was the job to do, he would always come and check how you are first and what you was getting on with before then saying what he needed from you, sort of thing. It was always you came first before the job, even though the job still needed doing, if that made sense.
That's good. Yeah.
Which I know can't apply to every sort of situation, but it was more because there was the time in the day to do that, so he went out of his way to do it.
Yeah.
Like he could have easily quite not have done, and everything would have probably run the same. But it's that cycle of when someone's like that, and especially the amount of energy he used to bring. When someone comes in like that as your leader, that inspires you. So then, if you're putting in that full 100%, that like it then makes his job easier. So an extra 5 minutes to make sure you're on top form means that he doesn't have to spend loads of time cleaning up some mess afterwards. Like
Definitely. I think like
it's
that acknowledgement that people are human is just like a massive thing. Like I know like you'd hear like leaders in or people who are supposed to be leaders in one breath saying like, for example, how much they hate Monday mornings or how much they, you know, hate Sunday nights because they know that Monday's following it kind of thing. And then in the next breath, they're expecting you to be performing your best on Monday morning, even though they've just said they hate Monday mornings. And it's like, if you can acknowledge that Monday mornings are a great time or whatever, Fridays are less productive because you're looking towards the weekend or whatever, you acknowledge that, you can work with it, and then you can kind of build a better team around it. Like, look at people as people. It's not a hard thing, but too often they look at them as a resource rather than as a person.
yeah.
And just on like my examples, I think one of the best leaders I've worked under some really good leaders and stuff like that, but one of the people who's coming to mind, and I'm not going to name them or the situation, but they weren't even in my team. They were in another team in terms of structure, but that person, because they were such a good leader, inspired me to do more, inspired me to it was within the work environment, so I worked weekends for this person. Like even I didn't mind in the role I was in. I didn't mind doing a bit of weekend work anyway, but even more so when I knew it was involved this person, and or I kind of tried new things, pushed myself. Like they gave me the confidence to try out new things and stuff that I was kind of sitting on the fence about doing. They'd be like, "Yeah, do it. Why not?" You know, even though they weren't my leader in a hierarchy, and that's why I think they stand out as such good leaders, because they weren't supposed to be my leader, but they were. That's how good they were, and I think they had. Speaking to other people, they had the same effect on them as well. And yeah, I think if you can inspire people you're not supposed to, not supposed to, but you're not directly involved with, then it just shows how good of a leader you are. I can't imagine what it would have been like being in their team. Like, it must have been incredible.
Oh God, yeah. No, that speaks absolutely volumes, doesn't it? If you're affecting positively people that aren't even in your team, then
Yeah, like we've all been, like you say, like camp, like in America, we've all done like residentials, and like you've all been jealous of that one team who's got that kind of group leader who's like the best, like the older member of staff or students who's the best person, like on sports day when you're in your teams at like school, and like you'd be looking towards another team going, oh, I wish I was in that team, look at how good that looks, or that kind of thing. And that's all down to leadership, really, even at that young age. Like we've all been in that situation. If you can replicate that, like imagine if you're at work and you're looking at the finance boss thinking that looks like a good team to be in, then
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, is there anyone at your place where you're looking at anyone in your place where you think, glad I'm not in that team, or I wish I was in that team, or anything like that? I know obviously you can't say too much, but
No, to be fair, the everything now is working really well. Like the, I'd definitely say where I am, everything has kind of come together now,
okay.
if that makes sense. Like especially over the years, even though you can see different teams, it's all just working as one full unit.
That's good. That is really good.
Which it's that. I mean, there's always going to be slight teething issues, but it's definitely a lot more, and you can tell in how people are, and you can tell in the work that gets done, because instead of it being like, oh, like waiting on so and so from this team or whatever like that, it's not that. It's like we all need to get this done, so everyone is jumping in like, oh, I can do this bit, I can do this bit, and
Yeah.
I mean, just get on with it. So yeah, that's definitely good to see.
I would say as well, like obviously you're working in more traditional working like office environment. With regards to like the environment I work in, which is like a co-working space normally, but within, take us out of the actual physical space, it's still lots of individuals running their own freelance business or small business, and not everyone has got staff. Like not everyone's employing people yet. But I genuinely think that I already know who will employ people and who will be good at employing people, because they're the kind of people who take that responsibility on. So like if a project comes into the community where it's like, oh, we need, I don't know, graphic designer, social media, copywriter, web developer, all these different things, there's always the same people kind of standing up to, or are willing to lead on that project and take the reins. And there's always the same people who are willing to sit and ride along with the project, but not actually lead the project. And I think that's a big thing as well. And I think I was just going to ask, within your workspace, and like maybe not necessarily your current one or your older one, it might be your old one. I've seen it myself. Are there people who maybe are in a position of leadership who are good leaders? So someone who's on an equivalent level, or maybe sits at the bottom of a team, but is essentially a good leader because of some of the traits that we've discussed.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've definitely worked with a lot of people who has always surprised me. They're not that the position matters, but not having more of an important role, because there's, as you said, there's always the people that will happily jump up and just claim the responsibility and just run headfirst into things, knowing that they can do it. And then there is always the last minute hand raisers.
Yeah, like always looking at everyone else. Yeah,
it's like, oh shoot, oh yeah, I'm sure I can do that as well if everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, I'd say like at 2017, we had obviously we had lots of different project teams because of like all the different events we were working on, and like I was surprised by sometimes how like you'd get like somebody from digital, somebody from marketing, someone from community, somebody from programming, and all like kind of just like a bundle of people on each project. And then I was surprised by the number of times that actually the person who in the hierarchy across all them different things should be at the bottom, or maybe not at the bottom, but definitely wasn't at the top, ended up taking the lead on the project. And the person who was probably most senior ended up not taking the lead, even though in a hierarchy they should. It was very interesting to see. And they were the people that you wanted in the project as well. Like, I don't think you want a room full of leaders, but as individuals, you want people who are willing to stand up and take it on.
Yeah, too right. It's finding that right balance in it, because you want enough people to do it, but then you also, because there's also the side of, just because you are wanting to step up and do something doesn't mean you're not good at it. It might just be that could be down to many other things, but people like that are always needed, because if someone's just happy enough to just coast along and do what needs to be done, that then is aided by the other people who are wanting to take the lead on it. They then have that workforce behind them to get the task done. So yeah, it's a good mix. It's just finding that perfect balance, really.
Yeah, it's interesting because my dad's always said to me that he was always happy being like number two. He never wanted to be like the leader, but he was absolutely fine being number two, and like within that role would drive the project forward or drive the number one to do more and stuff like that. But he didn't want that, maybe the responsibility of being number one, but would happily be like the one who did everything and kind of got stuff done. And I think, like you say, there's definitely a place and a need for them. But I think you'll find that them people still have the leadership qualities we've been talking about, the passion, the leading by example, all these kind of things. They just don't have the desire to actually take on that leadership role. But there might be other people in the group who are looking at them going, wow, they're inspiring me to do more, and inadvertently are being leaders. I think that's where it sometimes gets confused. I'm glad we've kind of just chatted around this today, because there's a clear difference between a leader and a manager, and A
Yes.
manager is somebody who's assigned a role to do something, and at the end of the day, they just need to get a job done. And a leader could be anybody within any role, within any organisation. And I think from what we said, we've kind of covered what that perfect leader should be.
Yeah. Yeah, too right. Yeah, I would say over the years as well, I would definitely have always taken that kind of number two role, that kind of sit back, like I'm more than happy to do the work. Tell me whatever you need doing, I'll happily do it. But and I think it's purely down to that I've never really had the desire to take anything on. And again, I think that was purely just down to confidence, because the thing is, I knew I could do all the work. I just didn't have the confidence to step up and go, yeah, I can do all this and I can make sure it gets done, sort of thing. Whereas now I'm definitely trying to, like, I'm nowhere near that at all, but I'm definitely trying to take on more situations where I can do that.
And we've spoken about it before on the pod. Self-awareness and self-belief are two huge things. And if your self-awareness is that you are that number two, then that's absolutely fine. Double down on that. Try and find the roles that fit that, like assistant manager or vice, whatever, that kind of thing. Don't try and be the manager or the leader because you feel that's what you've got to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good place to kind of wrap up this little segment on leaders. If anyone's got any views, if you think we've completely misunderstood what a leader should be, or any key personality traits you think we've missed, then we'd love to hear from you. As I say, it's at the MJ Social on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And as always, if you've got any other topics you want added to the list, then that's the same place for that too. So to round off today's podcast, we're going to be talking about our YouTube channel. We've got a few updates about the kind of content we've got coming up, a bit more about that new challenge we mentioned at the beginning. We just wanted to start by kind of chatting about what we've learned and hopefully bring in a bit of value to you guys, listeners. Hopefully you can get something from this if you're thinking about maybe moving across to YouTube, or if you've started YouTube and you don't know where to go. Now, I'm going to just kind of preface this by saying, we are very much beginners ourselves. We have only been doing this like a few months, but I think we've learned a hell of a lot by doing it for just a few months. Yeah. So I believe Tom's got some stats open and he's kind of leading, a very good leader. He hits all the characteristics of a good leader on our kind of YouTube side of things. So I'm going to kind of like pass over to him for an introduction, and then I'll kind of like chip in where I can.
No, that sounds good. No, thanks for that. So yeah, just to quickly go over some stats. So we started this channel on the 23rd of June, if you can think that far back. That's kind of where we started, and since then we've put out, I think we have about 35 videos out now, if I'm correct. And it's been different. Obviously, we started with the idiot trading challenge. We've had a few, not random videos as such, but less challenges against each other. But we've done a lot of our like takes on sort of things. Two of our biggest videos at the minute are one of Matt doing his sports cards, and closely up behind that was my valuation on some of the pops that have just come out for the New York Comic Con. So they're up there. They're really leading the charge at the minute. But we still do get decent returns on our actual challenges.
Yes,
like the likes and the views. We would probably look at saying on our normal day-to-day videos, we probably average between 10 and 20 views per video, which, for considering we've just kind of started, really, I'm more than happy with that. I think it's a good average to start with. But now we're about 4 months into it, we're up at the 25 subscriber mark, which I didn't think we would be at this point quickly at all. Our lifetime views, we've just gone over 1,200 views
Wow.
across all of our videos. Yeah, because I track these stats on the 23rd of every month to kind of see the exact monthly increase from that. And from August through to September, we got 440 views across that entire month span. And now between the September and the October one, so bearing in mind we're still 12 days off
Yeah.
the next actual starts, we've got, that's a 500 extra views on instead of the 440 as it was from last time. So that's already up from there, and
Not bad at all.
you can see it. Yeah, the change in views every month was like first month 130 more views, then 165, then this 440, and now currently the 500, and whatever else comes in for the rest of the month. So it is slowly growing. So all the time added up together, we are just shy of 59 hours across the board been watched, which, I mean, again, if you just look at the stats building up each month, it was 6.7 hours, then 5.9, then a huge 23 hours up, and now we're currently just under 23 hours up again so far this month.
Wow. So it's really good. And like, I think the growth, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it's down to two things really. I think it's one, down to just us continually putting out content. I think that is a massive player in this. If we just by putting out content, we would continue to grow. But also we've been tweaking, we've been learning, adapting, changing, updating the stuff. For each video, we probably do something different. I would say on every other video, probably we kind of try something new on average, and I think that is a huge thing. And we appreciate that where we are now will look completely amateur to where we are in the next 3 months, in the same way that looking back on the first video, we probably would change hundreds of things about that video compared to where we are now. So from my point of view, obviously we deal with different bits in terms of what we do and stuff, but I think from what I'm learning and what I'm seeing is like title needs to be like spot on in terms of you need to be thinking about what is somebody going to be searching for, because that's, if I'm right in thinking, that's probably where most of our traffic comes from, is from people searching for a topic and then finding one of our videos within that list of videos.
Yeah.
So we've got the title, which is something that I kind of look after. I look after the titles, and basically I'm just trying to think, this is what this video is about. What would somebody search to find a video about this topic? So for example, we've got a review. It's just a clip from one of our old podcasts going out today as we record this, I believe. And it's basically just a review of how we found the Idiot Trading Challenge and our take on it. Well, we know that Trading 212 as a term brings us a lot of traffic for them Idiot Trading Challenges. We do talk about Trading 212 within that episode, and we review the challenge. So we've kind of used them terms in terms of Trading 212, challenge, that kind of thing within the title, so that we know when people are searching for a review of Trading 212 or a Trading 212 challenge, they will hopefully find our video. Yeah. From your point of view, obviously, you've been looking, you talk a lot about kind of that profile of somebody who watches our video and like making sure that people who watch it click through to another video, or we get suggested to other videos. What have you kind of learned on that point of?
I would like that core part of it where you're saying the title is, yeah, it needs to be, but it should the thumbnail as well. The thumbnail needs to be not only accurate to what it is that it's portraying, but it needs to be eye-catching without being overcomplicated.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the big things. Like, if if you use YouTube either on your phone or or on computer or however you watch it, normally at the end of the video it comes up with suggested type videos, normally in a much smaller box than what, like when you're designing the thumbnail. So it needs to be just there to grab someone's eye so they click into it, as well as, especially when you can look at all your search terms and stuff in your description, you everything that you've put in there, that's also kind of picking up, as well as because you can have tags. So when someone is searching for your video, it's going to look through your title, it's going to look through your description, it's going to look at your tags. So they need to be spot on without being too much, because as soon as you start putting too much in there, YouTube doesn't know what to do with it, and they don't really want to do anything with it because it looks too spammy almost.
Yeah. And that's basically where we're trying to grow at the moment. He's trying to be that suggested video or top of the suggested videos, because that's where we see, like, we've found that in terms of some of the topics we're talking about, it's quite varied at the moment. We said it's almost like we're building a bit of a web over here and another web over here, like sports cards, Funko Pops, Idiot Trading Challenge. This new challenge we'll come on to shortly. And what we're trying to do over the next few months is kind of weave in and fill them gaps between everything. So this new challenge should fill the gap between the Idiot Trading Challenge and sports cards, and Funko Pops as well, kind of bring them all a bit closer together. And that's what we're ultimately trying to do, so that the suggested videos, because that is a huge part, isn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously there's stuff like longer term, because once you've done all that initial parts, and then hopefully when we can start building stuff up, that stuff might not matter as much because people are watching it because of the type of content we put out. But that's your longer term goals. That's a lot further ahead when you've got some form of following.
A lot of what people do is use collabs with other YouTubers. So they'll have a YouTuber from the industry that they're, or maybe the area that they're trying to relate to. But obviously we're not at a level where we can get collabs with people. So what we're trying to do is try and be the video on the suggested video at the end of that person's video. That's kind of how best to phrase it. So just I think possibly if people have got an appetite for this, we should maybe do a full episode about what we're learning about YouTube. Yeah. But yeah, just thinking about time and stuff, I think we should get on to what the new challenge is. Obviously, we're going to do we're going to be putting out a full episode on our YouTube channel about this challenge. So we don't want to go into too much, but basically, what is the challenge? What's the idea behind this new challenge?
In its simplest form, what we're going to be taking on this time is a eBay flipping challenge. So in 1 week, we're going to buy an item. In the next week, we're going to sell it, hopefully for a bigger profit, to then use that profit to buy something else, to sell that, and rinse and repeat for 4 weeks.
Yep.
Many rules fall under that, which, as Matt just said, there will be a different video explaining all of this. But that is the main premise of it, and it was definitely a different one from anything that we've done previously. But hopefully, it can start tying a few different things together.
Yeah, I don't know if this says anything about our confidence and our flipping abilities, but we've started with a budget of £10. So it's not like we're going to be making millions from this, but it's like we say, this is at the beginning, I said about, like, pride is at stake. This is about me and Tom taking on each other, trying to prove some YouTube myths, dispel YouTube myths, all this kind of thing as well, in terms of, like, we've done a trading challenge. Can you really just step into trading? Can you really just start selling stuff on eBay and make money? Like, I think what we've found with the previous challenges, it was probably not harder than we expected, but harder in different ways than we expected. And I think we'll probably find the same with this. Like, the issues we think will be issues aren't what the actual issues are. Yeah. But yeah, we'll be releasing a video for that. Was it at the end of each kind of round, so each round of selling, we'll release a video to see where we're at. And like I say, if you want to find out more about that challenge, then head over to our YouTube channel, which is Tom and Matt Take On. We're currently, if you search for that, we should come up, although there is a very similar name channel, which seems to come up as well. But also, if you search for the Idiot Trading Challenge, we still rank for that as well. So
Yeah.
it'll definitely come up there. But yeah, I think that's a great place to leave today's episode. I just wanted to check, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we close up?
Yeah, how's it going with the big mysterious client?
Right, I'm going to put it down on my to-do list to chase them, and I'll tell them the podcast want to know.
They need to know.
Podcast want to know. Are you employing me? No. Yeah, still no change. I think this is going to be one of them where, like, if this podcast lasts 10 years, but in 10 years' time, you may still be asking me what's happening with the big mysterious client, and I still won't want to mention it just in case I jinx it. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'll drop them another message. But yeah, like I said, I've heard not much has changed since the last update, but I am hearing that they are progressing with other people. So I think it's just a matter of waiting my time. Okay. But yeah, still no update for everyone who's here for the updates on the big client alone. I think we should keep putting it at different points in the episode as well, so people can't just skip to it because
can't skip in. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the update on the big mysterious client. As ever, thank you for listening. Until next time, stay safe.